What is going on YouTube today? We're going to be talking about what to look out for when buying a used motorcycle. Stay tuned. So first of all, this is my 2012 Honda CBR 600RR that I did purchase pre-owned. I did buy it used. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. Here's a list of some of the things that you should look for when you're buying a used bike. So the first thing that you want to look for is the VIN. You want to make sure that the VIN on the bike, which you can find right there or over on this side, matches the VIN on the title. You want to make sure that the bike you're looking at wasn't stolen. Also, when you're looking at the title, make sure that the name on the title matches the owner that's trying to sell the bike. Now that you realize the bike wasn't stolen, which is the main thing, there's a couple things on the motorcycle itself that you're going to want to take a look at. You want to get a good look at the fairings to see if the bike has ever been dropped. A lot of times you'll see scratches right here. I'll show you actually what they will look like. Or down here on the main part of the fairings. Or even right here, which there's a little bit of damage here. It's kind of hard to see, but this bike was dropped by the previous owner, but just in his driveway, and I could tell because the handlebar ends were not beat up too bad. So I trusted him on that. You could also easily tell with the mirrors. If the mirrors are broken or bent, that's a telltale sign that it was dropped on that side. Unfortunately, I did drop my bike here in my driveway. Not happy about it, but shit happens. So I'll show you what a drop bike looks like. So you can see here, a little bit of damage on that side right there. You can see where the clutch lever dug into the fairings. You can see a little bit of damage right there as well. And then like I showed earlier, up here on this side, just something to look out for. If the owner says it was never dropped and you see stuff like that, you know he's lying. Next big thing that I look at is the fork seals. You want to make sure that the fork seals aren't leaking. That's a big expensive fix. So you come down here and run your finger along the forks, and if they're oily and wet, that means the fork seals are leaking. They probably come down hard on the fork seals a lot, try to do wheelies and stuff like that, and you don't want a bike that was beat on too much, at least. Next up, get a good look at the brakes, both front and rear. It's kind of hard to see, but try to get a good look at the pads. Make sure that the pads are at least there. Like I said, it's going to be hard to see on camera. But take a look at the brake pads. Take a look at the rotors. You know, make sure that they're straight. They're not bent. Nothing is wrong with them. Like I said, front and rear. The rear, it might be a little easier to see the pads. But we want to make sure the brakes are in decent shape at least. Next big thing is the tires. Tires are a telltale sign that the guy beat on the bike, did a lot of burnouts, only rode on the highway. And you want to look for even tread. A lot of times the center of the tire will be flat. That's not a good sign. That means they did a lot of burnouts. You want to see relatively even wear across the whole tire, both front and rear. Now, if the bike needs new tires, that tends to happen a lot because, you know, people are selling their bikes, so they're not going to put new tires on it before they sell it. If it needs new tires, that's not a huge issue. You'll just want to make sure that you take care of that in the near future. Another general thing to look at is any kind of aftermarket parts. Now, if it's got an exhaust or some levers, that's not a major issue. But if it's tuned, you want to make sure it's tuned by the right place. If it's got a bunch of aftermarket parts, that could mean that it was dropped previously and they had to replace a lot of things. Now, my bike did come with these levers and it did come with this exhaust. But to me, those weren't too big of issues to be concerned about. Obviously, these motorcycles have oil in them, and that's something that you want to check too, because you'd be surprised at the amount of times I went to go look at a bike and I could barely see any oil. Most bikes will have a little glass piece in there you can kind of see. Now, this bike is obviously leaning to the side, and I'm not trying to drop it again, but when you lean it upright, you'll be able to see in there the oil come up, and you want it to be about somewhere in the middle. That way you know that they actually did put oil in the bike, and they actually did change the oil regularly as long as it's a decent color. Not many people do this, but I look at general wear and tear on some of the bolts in the main engine compartments. It's a little harder to see on a full fairing bike, but just try to get a good look at some of the bolts. You can see if they were taken on and off, even with the fairings. You know, the fairings need to be taken off for oil changes, so that's completely understandable, but you want to see if, you know, possibly the bike was ever rebuilt or anything like that. And if you look at some of the major engine components and you see a worn out bolt, that means they struggled to get it out. So keep an eye out for that as well. you want to check the chain and make sure the chain has the right amount of play. It's not too tight, it's not too loose. Make sure the teeth on the sprockets are decent at least. If it needs a new sprocket, that's one of those things that might have to be done, but like I said, they were just trying to get rid of the bike, so they didn't see a need to. But make sure the chain has a decent amount of play in it, and make sure that the sprockets are looking decent. Another thing that might seem strange is make sure the keys line up with the ignition key and the gas cap key. My buddy looked at a bike once and the gas cap key was different from the ignition key. There were two different keys, and then there was a third key that looked different from that one, and it was just bad news. On that topic, try to go with someone that could help you out to look for these things, because it really helps having a friend that knows maybe even a little more than you when you're going to look at a bike. I still bring a friend, even though I've been riding for years and I've been buying and selling bikes for a long time, and even though I know what to look for, I always bring a friend anyway. Now, at some point, if everything checks out, you're going to want to take the bike for a spin. You're going to want to ride it down the street, feel how it rides, feel how it shifts, feel how the brakes catch. And if the owner isn't going to let you do that, I'd be a little skeptical. Some people want cash in hand. I can understand that. But if you're going to see the bike, you're a serious buyer anyway. Now, whether you're going to take it for a spin or your buddy's going to take it for a spin, there's a couple things you want to look out for. Make sure the bike is riding properly. Make sure that the throttle isn't sticking. Make sure that the brakes are braking. Make sure that the clutch is catching and it's not slipping. And these are some things as a beginner you might not know about, but if you bring someone else, they will. And just overall, give the bike a little look over. Check everything, look at everything. If something seems off, maybe don't buy it, maybe think about it, maybe get a second opinion. These are pretty expensive machines, so you want to make sure you're getting something that's gonna take care of you because it was taken care of. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out. Let me know if it helped you. Let me know what you guys are looking for. And as always, take it easy out there.